So when it came to buying the main substrate for my enclosure, I wanted to really look into it. I've noticed that some people go for um, hemp, some people go for a wooden sort of bedding, some people stick with paper. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of do a bit of a deep dive. Um, Most people recommend paper, like that was the one that I saw most recommended, but it's quite common for people who have larger enclosures to use a wood-based bedding because it just is cheaper. Um, so I looked into a few different options. I looked into or both, a mix of paper and hemp. At one point I was going to kind of do a layered thing. I thought about Chipsi, about doing a mix of Chipsi and paper. I honestly kind of went around the houses and did a lot of thinking and reading about it. What I've chosen in the end is paper, and I'm just going to do solid paper. There's a few reasons, and I just thought it might be helpful for me to share those reasons with you if you're thinking about changing your substrate or you're setting up for a new hamster. So firstly, it was the most recommended. Secondly, I used just a plain paper substrate for Flamey, and so I'm used to it. I'm used to managing it. I know when it needs changing, and for me, I thought it was really good in terms of locking away odor and being really absorbent. Like, I never really got that hamster smell that people talk about. So that was pretty good for me. I think the other thing is that a lot of people talk about dust, and dust I think is the main sort of consideration when you go to your main substrate. So what put me off Chipsy was a lot of people were saying that it was really dusty, and paper is also dusty. Like the paper bedding that I used for Flamey, it was dusty. But then the difference is that there have been times with Flamey where I've made him like a new cage add-on or something like that, and I've had to then put a lot of bedding into it, and it was dusty. Like, there's no getting past that. But it never really impacted me. It was just dusty. Whereas, like, running the shop, there are days when I bag up a lot of aspen, and I go through maybe like a 14 kilogram bag of aspen really quickly. And when I walk into the room after I've done that, the air is just thick with dust. But also for like the 2 days afterwards, I feel like I've been breathing razors. And I think for me, that's like a big consideration. Like, both of them are dusty, both of them are hamster safe, but paper dust seems to me just seems far more gentle on my respiratory system than the wood dust does. The aspen that I use for the shop is the same aspen that I used for Flamey, and we never had any issues with it. But for me, having had part of his cage being aspen previously, and it being a part of the cage that he did toilet in, it wasn't as absorbent as I would have liked, and it didn't lock away as much odor as I would have liked. So for me, I just think it's not, wood is far more economical, but it didn't feel like it would be as useful. I'm not saying it doesn't absorb anything or cover up any odours, like the wood does smell really nice, and Flamey loved it. Like, Flamey was really addicted to like the wood smell. When I made him like a little add-on enclosure from a wooden cage, he absolutely loved it, and he used to love sleeping in there. So I think he just really enjoyed the smell of wood, which is fine. But I just think, given everything that I went through, paper just worked out better. But I do think that the type of main substrate you use is a personal choice. I don't think it's something where there is actually any one better than the other. I think it comes down to personal preference and what your experience is and how happy you are with using those different kinds of substrates. I think for me, I'd be more likely to use a wood-based substrate if I was really experienced with hamsters, like if I was like 7 hamsters down, then maybe I would, you know, be more tempted to use something a little bit less, you know, easy. I think that's it. Just like paper is really easy. So anyway, I've rambled on about that enough. If you're choosing your own substrate for your cage, I hope that helped in some small way.